Hi, good morning. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you.
So we have how many people? We have about 6 right now. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. So I don't know if I can start now, but I haven't attended other breakout sessions. So do you know how this can proceed? I have prepared just a brief slide for the discussion, but if you have any other ideas to do the discussion, it's free to tell me.
Yeah, well, what people normally have done is they talk a little bit like you said you would, and then maybe you have some questions and people warm up and start to answer and then
Okay.
bring in other topics. So,
Right.
if you wanted to maybe open the discussion.
Okay, I just have a just opening slide for this discussion, so I just want to share with you. You can look at the slide in the link in Trello, and you can also edit this Google slide. So this is a breakout discussion about chatbots, and welcome to this breakout discussion. And I'm Ryuichiro Higashinaka. I'm in Japan. It's about 4 a.m. now, so I'm a little bit tired, but it's all right. So, so this is the outline that I prepared. So just let me just briefly talk about what we intend to do or what I think it would be interesting to do. And then I just talk about a little bit about the discussion topics I have prepared. And finally, about 45 minutes or about an hour later, we're going to do the wrap up. So in the introduction, I think we're going to just have a very informal discussion on chatbots or related technologies. And what I think is interesting would be to have that we have a goal to understand what we think about the current status of chatbot research, because there are wide ranges of studies related to chatbots, and I just want to know what others people are thinking about the current trend, or current important goal of chatbot research. So that I thought would be, if you have any other ideas, I'm really I'd like to really know what you think about what we should discuss. And okay, so so maybe it's good to introduce ourselves a little bit before we go into the discussion. We have only about less than 10 people, I guess, so we can just say a few words each of us. Well, I don't know. We have a lot more people than we have about 1, 2, 3, 4. We have a little bit more people than I expected. So we have 16 people in total. So I don't know if it is good to introduce ourselves, but I just recommend we just say our names and just a little bit thing about what we do. I think that would be just interesting to know in the first place. Is that okay? So, I start by myself, but I'm Ryuichiro Higashinaka. I'm working on chatbots for about 6 or 7 years, and I have done some commercial services in Japan on chatbots. So that's my background, and so I just I don't know who should start, but I just tell you your name and you can start. So Michael McTeer.
Yeah, okay, Michael McTeer. I've been working on chatbots or dialogue systems for probably about 20 years. They've become very popular now, so it's really interesting. 20 years ago, I was working pretty much on my own.
Okay. Okay, how about George Del Bosque?
Hi, thank you, Ryuichiro. I'm a PhD student at Queen Mary University of London. I'm in the third year, starting the third year, and my research is in dialogue, psycholinguistics, human-computer interaction, and specifically now I'm looking into tutoring dialogues and implementing human-human models into spoken dialogue systems or chatbots.
Okay, thank you. Could you introduce yourself, Maxine?
Sure, I'm Maxine Eskenazi from Carnegie Mellon, and I've been working in mainly slot filling systems, and so goal-directed systems. But the session before this, we had a paper on assessing chatbots and non-goal-directed systems. So I'm interested to hear what people have to say.
Thanks. Timothy, could you introduce yourself? Okay.
Yeah, so I'm a linguist in researching chatbots. So my degree is pure linguistics with a focus on syntax and corpus linguistics. And so now I'm working in computational linguistics, trying to build syntactic parsers for the kind of language that we get through chatbots.
Okay, thanks. Veronica?
Hi, I'm Veronica. I'm from Harriet University in Edinburgh. I'm still quite new to the field of dialogue systems and chatbots, but actually my recent project that I worked on was on combining these two together. So yeah, I'm also curious what you here have to say about, combining these two together.
Okay, thanks. Jessica?
Hello, I'm Jessica. I'm an incoming master's student at CMU, actually working with Dr. Eskenazi. And so I interned on Amazon's Alexa Prize team for 2 summers. So that's where my interest in chatbots comes from. But I'm moving more toward emotion in the conversational context now.
Thank you. Yuka?
Hello, my name is Yuka Kobayashi. I work at Toshiba Corporate R&D Center in Japan. So my team develops spoken dialogue system and speech recognition. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael S. Luke? I don't know how to pronounce his name, but...
I'm Michael Lucky. I'm an incoming master's student at the University of Minnesota, and my current research involves conversational AI in health-related domains.
All right, thank you. Eileen?
Hi, I'm Aaron. I work at Alexa AI, Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty new to dialogue system. Yeah, thanks.
All right. Could you introduce yourself, Sudeep?
Yes, hi. I'm Shakib Mehri. I'm a grad student at Carnegie Mellon University.
All right. I don't know how to pronounce Supan, but yeah.
Hi. I'm Supun Bhatia from University of Marathon, Sri Lanka, and my area of research is in goal-oriented dialogue systems, and mostly the state tracking research. And before I started my master's at the university, I worked in a local company related to developing chatbots.
Okay, thank you. So we have only 2 people remaining. Alessandro?
Hi, I'm Alessandra Vitale. I'm the founder of Conversate, which was founded in 2016. It's a startup. We built an enterprise chatbot platform, which are task-oriented, but I'm interested in all the new development in the field. Hi from Milan.
Thank you. Shikib?
Hey, sorry, I think I'm Sudeep. I'll just introduce myself. I used to work on virtual human dialogue systems when I was in grad school that basically came very close to chatbots, where the setting was not task-oriented. Since then, I have graduated and I'm working in Google these days on Google Assistant and conversational prototypes in that space, which is more task oriented. So I've sort of switched from non-task oriented to task oriented, and interested to see what's the latest happening in chatbots.
Thank you. I think I haven't heard from I don't know how to pronounce Yiling, Y-I-L-I-N-G. If you are hearing me, it'd be good if you can introduce yourself, Yiling. If we don't hear from you, then we go to the next part. Okay, I think I don't know if he is hearing us. So we have just introduced ourselves, and we know that we're from many different backgrounds, many different research fields. But some of you are working on task-oriented chatbots, and some are working on general chatbots, and also some people are interested in evaluation, and also some are working on industry and so on. So there are many areas that we are working on. So I don't know if we can decide on which kind of discussion topics we should be focusing on. So this is a list of topics that I have prepared in advance, but they are mainly about my interests. So I don't know if they closer to interests. So I just list them up and I just read them. Best practice for evaluation, current trends in neural-based methods such as Mino, BlenderBot, neural-based chatbots for low resource languages. I've been working on Japanese, but there are not many pre-trained models or dialogue data available, so we are having some trouble learning large models. So I just listed this up in this discussion list, and also integration of task-oriented dialogue and chatbots. Some people would be very interested in talking about this. And I also put a best practice of chatbots. Chatbots really, I think they're quite interesting, but chatbots really useful in the current society. I think that's a very interesting point. And I'm open to any other topics that you may be interested in. So this is a, so if you have any ideas about what we should talk about in this discussion, breakout session, please tell us your opinions.
To do with definition, are we considering text-based chatbots as well as voice-based ones, like spoken dialogue systems, but also ones that are text input?
Yeah, that's a good point. Mainly, I think the current chatbots are in text-based format, but I don't know if there are workable chatbots that work on speech. I mean, well, Alexa, are they chatbots or are they not?
They call them social bots. Yeah, so the definition is difficult, really. People have different ways of defining these things. Personally, I just keep it fairly open and consider anything that involves a conversational style, whether it's text or for speech.
Yeah, but in speech or in multimodal setting, the chat would be much more difficult. Or do you think that would be text-based would be easier to handle? Or I don't know. Do they have any pros and cons on their media? Should the chatbot be in text or in speech? Is there any difference or is there any preference, do you think?
Well, I suppose it is more difficult once you have speech, possible speech recognition problems, things like that. But otherwise, the main sort of dialogue flow and so on is going to be the same.
Okay. So, yeah, so then, I don't
comment
know.
as
Okay.
Not only the speech processing makes it more complex, but all the grounding mechanisms that happen at a very fast pace, like back channeling and other grounding mechanisms, communicative grounding in the speech is much more complex than in text. I would say people can just wait there to respond and do other stuff and then chat, and that's fine, that's okay. But with the conversational system, in the commercial ones, in the spoken ones, if you prolong a question you're asking to Alexa, it just like stops listening to you. So
oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, but are there people seriously thinking about creating a chatbots on speech or on other modalities? Do you think? I think there are many people working on text-based chatbots, but not many people working on, I mean, in speech-oriented chatbots. Do you think this is a good direction for the community to go? Are there any opinions?
Well, it depends whether we have spoken dialogue systems and whether some people might call those chatbots anyway. So it does come down to the definition, really.
So I just want to add a quick comment. I think there is this Alexa challenge. I'm not sure if everyone knows here. So that's essentially a social chatbot. It's people speaking to the bot, and that Alexa challenge has been going on for 3 years. And yeah, I think there been a lot of progress made on that.
Is the Alexa chatbot kind of focusing on this very interactive nature of speech-based interaction, or are they using...
speech-based interaction.
Yeah, but it's still more like a kind of how do I say it? It's speech recognition is done and then the processing is starting, so it's not that interactive, or is it really aiming for a duplex kind of interaction between the human and the system?
It's real-time interaction, right? It's just like you're speaking to all these voice assistants like Alexa. So is it just like right now most of the voice assistants are task-oriented? This one is focused on open domain like chit chat, right? So you're gonna talk about, say, there's topics, right? They're like movie and sports, fashion, all these topics, and then there are a number of universities participating. Yeah, so I think based on the human evaluation, on a scale of I think 0 to 5, it's I think the winner is 3 point something. I mean, of course, it's not perfect, but I think people have been talking to the winning bots like 20 minutes, and then having fun. Yeah.
Okay, Jessica, you begin to.
Yeah, so like I was interning on the Amazon team that was overseeing this challenge. And so it's still, I guess, not particularly like speech focused. It's more like back-end focused, text focused, you get the information from the ASR and you kind of just analyze that with like the text that you get and not really like other speech features. That's something that like I was also more interested in like looking at it and how you can like get more information from the speech as well. And like also going out the back end, I think there wasn't too much on like kind of changing like the natural voice of the bot as well. So yeah, that would be like some areas of improvement, I think.
Okay, so we were just talking about this kind of definition of chatbots, or what is the best media for chatbots. I don't know if this is a interesting topic to continue or not, but if you have other things you want to talk about, then that would be great. So is there any opinion about what we should talk in the next, for example, 10 to 15 minutes? Because we have a limited times.
I'll be more interested, just myself, I'll be more interested in hearing Iowa and what they think about open domain chatbots. So what are the approaches? And as you listed, so here, a lot of neural-based chatbots, the models. What?
Ah, sí, ya lo corté.
So you said, what is the name of the discussion topic you said? Could you repeat that?
Who? Is it me or?
Yeah, you, Iran.
Oh yeah, so yeah, I just want to hear what everyone think about the direction. There, of course, there are all these end-to-end neural-based chatbots. I just want to hear everyone is this the way to go, or there's something missing, really, that although this represents one direction that's achieved pretty good results, and there could be fundamental limitations, right? So what are the other approaches that are more promising, right, in terms of advancing the state of the art of chatbots?
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting topic. So if do you think this is it's good to talk about this first, or anything else you want to talk about first?
This is what I'm mostly interested in. Yeah, I'm not sure what other people.
I'm quite also interested in, because there are so many ways to create a chatbot, and we have many neural-based good systems, but I don't know if that's a promising approach. So this may be a good one to talk about first, if that's okay.
There is also just one more suggestion about topics to discuss. This is somewhat related to the definition of chatbots. What is generally the use case, the application use case? So even for people who actually work with Alexa, Jessica might have some idea. Like, who are the people who are talking to Alexa social bot, and why are they doing that? So what I'm getting at is like, when people are talking to personal assistants, there is some value that they derive besides just talking. So they can turn things, they can turn on lights, and they can play some music that they want. But when you think about open domain social chat, whether it's in text or speech, why are people engaging in these conversations other than just trying to figure out, have fun? But I mean, is there anything other than just have fun? Yeah, what's the use case? I mean, in a sense, when we say it's not task oriented, every conversation there is some goal that a participant has. What is that? For
yeah,
for chatbots? Yeah,
this is about this thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question. So these open domain chatbot, people are saying, okay, there's really no goals, right? So that, some people will define goals as, okay, you want to have a very long conversation, engaging conversation, right? So what people are looking for to, in chatting about, okay, movies and sports, yeah, I think a lot of the time it's just having fun, right? So that the people, so there's this social bots feature, and then people just opt in, and then just chatting, right? So that's just like show ice, right? Like people just, want to just have an engaging conversation, get bored, and having fun talking about some of these topics in details, right? So I mean, it will be hard to find humans who have similar interests that you can have in-depth conversation whenever you want, right? Wherever you want, right? So it's just like, I think, every human would have a lot of things they want to do, finding them at the right time, whenever you want, is hard, right? So that's what I'm thinking. So
Okay, so I think we can just talk about this one and this one. Well, just 20 minutes each or something, so that we can just think about the technology and also the use cases. Would that be okay?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
I don't know which one to start, but maybe we are interested in technology, so we just go from this one, because there are many neural-based systems that are seemingly performing very well, and I'm a little bit interested in what you're thinking about such technologies.
Ryu,
Yeah.
maybe I'm very new to the neural-based successful chatbots, but what I read so far is that they are really bad. Are you aware of like a specific commercial application that it's actually capable of having like a natural conversation?
Yeah, I'm just here talking about these two papers that I recently read. I don't know if you have read them, but according to their paper, they say that about 80% of the time the utterance is natural. So I thought it was quite good compared to other systems like Cleverbot or commercially available bot like Shawise. They claim that their system is much better because of a lot more data have been put into their neural models. So I just thought people are becoming to think that the neural-based systems are quite good and they can be capable of continuing the conversation quite well. So I don't know. Because I haven't used the systems myself, but if you have any thoughts, if you think they're really bad still, then that would be interesting to know.
In these papers, are they using a mixed approach of maybe combining templates with neural generation and then combining it in the final stage of producing the output?
No, this is a kind of a very totally end-to-end systems. Many systems at Alex Prize, I think they're using multiple components and combining multiple modules, but in their approach, they have a huge neural network containing about billions of parameters trained with billions of social media oriented data. So I don't know. I haven't talked to these systems, but if you have a first-hand experience, if you know if they are any good compared to other systems, in that kind of information would be very useful. Are there any people who have a thought on such neural recent technologies? Not many.
Well, I think in the papers they show results that their systems are better than comparable ones. So, for example, the Blender paper showed that they were better than Mina and also Mitsuko, which is a handcrafted one. So it just depends really if you believe their results, I suppose. I mean, they do seem quite good. They don't obviously show the bad dialogues very much. They always show the better ones. What though I don't understand is why the companies are actually doing this. I mean, do they want to generate assistants that are that people will talk to for fun? Or is there some other sort of reason that isn't very obvious. To make money out of it.
Why do they create such a system?
Yeah. I mean, there seems to be more motivation for a task-based system because it's doing a job. It's doing something that maybe you would have to do yourself on the web, and maybe it's easier to do it using a chatbot. But for the conversational ones, the sort of thing we're interested in is actually where it's a social purpose, maybe like counseling or healthcare advice. But nobody seems to be really sort of working in that direction. And I don't think I'd want to use one of these neural systems for that sort of critical situation just yet.
Yeah, what I'm thinking about is that they are just focusing on the technology side of how to continue the conversation, and that's everything they are after. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I work at Google. I don't work on the Mina project, but maybe I can say something. The main goal there was to just see how much we can push the boundaries of chatbot system. So it's more of just a research project, and in fact, it actually is trying to figure out how to be useful in some product right now. And some of the possible applications are, it's really good at natural language generation. And then the question is, can we control that generation and be useful somewhere in a product like Google Assistant? It is not yet doing the kinds of things that Michael was talking about, providing social chats and have some value yet. And that's where that was one of the things I was asking initially was what are the applications for chatbots? They're not entirely clear at this point.
Yeah. I was going to talk about this one in the next.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of intermingled, so we can just talk about these together maybe. So I don't know if you asked Steve. You said that you're working on more on goal-oriented dialogue right now.
Yeah.
So
and there is this. Sorry, just to continue with the thought that I mean, one of the things is these chatbots are not yet released publicly, and I just wanted to say the issues involved there are user privacy, and some of them are just public PR related issues. You don't want another Microsoft Day kind of a thing happening, and these neural bots are completely out of control right now. They are learning on things like Reddit data, and you have no idea when the biases are going to start show up, and it could be a nightmare if something bad happens.
Okay. So you are not releasing the bot like a system.
I think that's gonna be very challenging. But
yeah, okay.
But hopefully, with enough disclaimers associated with it and enough work that goes into making sure that whatever it says is safe and not harmful to it's not saying anything sensitive, then it could be a possibility that it gets released. I think there is a program that is trying to release these access to things like Mina for academic institutions, so people can try out at least the technical side of it.
Okay, thanks. So
yeah, mentioned Schwartz previously. I've just read the papers about that, but does anybody have direct experience? It seems to be actually very widely used compared to the ones that we're talking.
Oh, hi, David.
Hi, sorry, Michael, you're saying which is highly used? I didn't quite hear.
Schwartz,
the one
that, yeah. Well, I don't know if I pronounced that right, but anyway, you know which one I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems to be widely used in China, and I think there's a version in the States as well, called Zoe, is it, or something else?
Yeah, I think
I just
Xiaoai
wondered if anybody here about it.
so it's called Zoe AI, but it's not working now, I think. Microsoft has released a US version of Xiaoai, and it was named Zoe AI, I thought. But I think it had stopped its operation a few months ago.
There's one in Japan as well, though, isn't there, a version?
What'd you say?
Yeah. Isn't there one in Japan as well?
Yeah, there's one. It's called Rina. And she's very famous, really famous. But I don't know why people are talking to that system. So it comes to this application of chatbot, and I think it's mainly for entertainment. But are there many other systems that are useful? I mean, useful application of chatbot that you have in mind, or that are working? That would be interesting to talk about here. Although we want to talk about it later. David, do you have a good idea about a good application of chatbot?
Well, yeah, I think you need to break it into both sides. So on the industry side, it's not at all a surprise to me that people would be interested, because anything that generates eyeballs or attention, you know, is going to drive advertising and profitability. So, you know, if you can get a chatbot that people are going to talk to forever, and the chatbot can subtly point you toward things that you want to advertise in some way, or even just, you know, it's even on the screen or a banner or something, you know, or you know, people will, so it's something that people can monetize. So anything that captures people's attention is good for business. And that relates to the second question of why would somebody talk to this thing, and what would the purpose of the user be? And there, I think, you know, there is just an incredible, we're just social animals. I mean, we're used to interacting. So it's a hard time for us when we're locked in our houses alone or with a very small number of people. And it's harder to meet new people or have relatively casual interactions. You know, we have formal interactions like this where we have to explicitly, you know, join a link to go join somebody or a specific meeting topic. But there's a you know, we're built in wanting that kind of connection. And so, and we look for it, you know, even before computers, we would talk to animals, we would talk to plants, we would talk to other machines like cars and so on. And, you know, so something that talks back, you know, that's sort of built for us to want to interact with. So, you know, the burden is fairly low. I mean, not that we can achieve it yet, but it's fairly low in terms of, you know, meeting that minimal satisfaction of providing an interactive experience that people can enjoy.
Do you think that enjoyment can be just as an instant? I mean, people talk to each other to have a long-term kind of relationships, but currently, I mean, I don't know about plants, but with chatbots, I don't know if we can establish such a long-lasting relationship.
Yeah, I think we can, but we're not there yet, and especially the neural models are challenged because everything is focused on kind of, you know, least common denominator or you know, very local kinds of interaction, and very few, if any, have a real consistency to them, where they're going to remember what they said, and they're going to be consistent in a way of either maintaining it or evolving from it, as opposed to just contradicting it completely. So, so that's a big challenge for long term. You know, you need to be consistent, but you need to grow as well, like people do.
Yeah, I'd like to add a couple points. So so I think by really this personal connection, that you can actually have personalized chatbots, right? So that opens a lot of business opportunities, right? You remember, you know, the person's sort of age preference, and then this can actually this consistency, you can take it to all kinds of different applications, right? Let's say you got Alexa on in cars, right? So that remembers, you know, what you talked about at home, right? So I think this consistency would lead to a lot of applications. It could, you know, when you're in the car, it could recommend you to places, right? So again, connect to the advertisement. I just want to bring in the personalization angle, and then how that opens up a lot of business opportunities in different contexts. Yeah.
I also want to add that indeed that's a very important thing, and that was one of the motivations for me to start my PhD, although I'm far away from that. So my initial idea was to have a linguistic creativity in the dialogue system, in the spoken dialogue system, which actually uses a common ground, if you can talk about a common ground with a machine, but at least, let's say, for example, I'm from Mexico, I like to swim, I'm studying a PhD, so if I ask to a spoken dialogue system, hey, can you explain me what is I don't know, what is a fire blower? The answer should be very different to maybe my friend that she's a woman from London, and which is maybe younger than me. And so this kind of tailoring and personalization, I think, is very important. And there are a lot of things there, for example, privacy, right? So people are really concerned about, well, if this, imagine that Alexa knows more stuff about myself, would I be willing to give that information or not? So it raises like more challenges and questions, and that's in one side. In the other side, I see opportunities, or one of the things that I haven't seen exploited, and maybe I'd like to test if I have the time in my PhD. So let's say that you are in this dialogue in a tutoring system, for example. You just want to say, for example, an application called what do you want to learn today, right? So what do you want to learn today? Well, I want to learn about Japanese cars. I don't know anything about Japanese cars. So, right. So what would happen in a normal conversation? Like if you are talking with a new acquaintance or a friend, it's like you actually have to kind of diagnose, or you have to probe what's in the mind of this person before responding. It's like, for example, I would start with, have you been to Japan? Right. Mm-hmm. No, I never been to Japan. I have some friends in Japan, right? So you at least have some knowledge where to start, right? So I can keep going on and talking about this, but I'll stop here. But I think that the common ground that you can develop with a machine, like the community should be also addressing this. I also thought about kind of ephemeral common ground, which just gets developed in a session, in a conversational session that just disappears. So you always feel safe that these machines are not absorbing all your habits or all those private things, right? And so that's common ground. Now, I'll finish quick. Sorry for talking a lot, but in addition to the idea of the common ground.
Okay, so maybe
I just forgot about it, but maybe I can intervene later.
Yeah. So I understand that the common ground is very important for mutual relationships, and also for advertisement, and for the industry side as well. So there was a discussion about the difference between chatbots and also task-oriented dialogue systems. I think the distinction is getting a little bit closer right now. I don't know if you agree, but Alexa bot is dealing with some tasks as well as social chat. So do you think the two can be sort of more closely put together in the next generation of chatbot?
I think that's a hope. Yeah. So you can actually have a coherent bot that whenever you want to talk social, and then it will talk social, and then you can seamless transition. Like Trump, I'm not sure it's sorry, I forgot your first name, that you mentioned that you can seamless transition to recommend you things you want, right? So I think that is a hope. You want just one bot that can do everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that kind of rapport or the trust between the system and the user based on social chat would be useful for other task-oriented dialogue as well. I thought that's how we are dealing with our everyday conversation, and I thought that would be the next kind of thing that we're gonna working on. Or is chatbot should be like a chatbot for entertainment, only for entertainment? I don't know how you feel.
I think there's also, we haven't talked about all the value that the people that work with their hands, for example, construction workers or people driving a bicycle, talking about spoken dialogue systems. It's really valuable to talk with a conversational AI when you have your hands busy, right? So as opposed to be texting, workers can ask questions about where should I, what's the next thing I should do, or whatever type of job which requires people to use their hands and their eyes somewhere else as opposed to their eyes in the screen, right? So I just wanted to raise that use case, which I think it's something that will increase the use of spoken dialogue systems, because it frees you from the screens, your eyes from the screens, and also your fingers from the keyboard, right?
Okay, thank you. So I don't know where we are, but we should be talking about neural-based methods, but it's gone a long way. But
yeah, so on that, I'd like to add a comment that Blender actually they released the model weights. So if you guys anyone wants to play with it, you can play with it. Yeah.
Oh, really?
So
okay.
One of my colleagues actually played with it. Yeah. So I think there's still a lot of limitations. So the key question is, what is really missing in these neural-based chatbots, right? I think earlier, I forget your name, Susan, mentioned that consistency, right? So doesn't remember history and then doesn't have a personality, right? I think those can be, some of them can be easily fixed, right? So you could actually have a persona, right? So that, you could have configure a persona, and then you could actually remember the history, right? And so these are easy, but in terms of getting consistency, right, that is hard, right? So I'm trying to see that what are the fundamental limitations of this approach? Right? Can this approach actually achieve consistent, engaging, and knowledgeable conversation? Right. If not, what's why? Right. So what are the things that's needed to fix this?
Any people who have thoughts about this? What do you think about? Yeah. Okay, David.
I'm just going to say that I think that it may be useful to separate the chat and chatbot and the task-oriented for a couple of reasons. I mean, it would be, it'd be a dream to be able to have one architecture or one system that you could do everything with, but you very often want different roles. And so just like we turn machines and animals into people, we also turn people into machines sometimes. Sometimes we just want the information as efficiently as possible. We don't want to have any social implications of that. And it may be funny or uncomfortable to have the same, well, if your mother is at the checkout counter of McDonald's, you probably want to have a conversation with her and ask her how her day's been and so on. But if you're very hungry and you only have a few minutes before your next meeting, you may want to go in and get your food very quickly. So you don't want to have that conversation. So you have that kind of thing. There probably will be cases where you don't want to have that social dialogue, and even having a transactional dialogue with somebody that you normally have social interactions with is awkward and uncomfortable to not have that. So I think there may be reasons to keep them separate to some degree. And then also functionally, it may be much easier to do only one as opposed to both functions within the same architecture. So I think there's still a reason to keep them separate, although I agree that there are many cases where you want to have a blending of both, and an ideal system would be able to do what's appropriate at the right point.
So you said, so if the chatbot can only chat, then but that can also be useful because it can keep the attention of people, and also people are just social animals. So that
you have different expectations. You know, if you're sitting in a bar or an airplane when we're allowed to go do those things again, you know, you don't expect somebody to actually do a real task for you, you know, because you're kind of not in the appropriate workplace to do that. And so you just, you know, it's okay to just talk socially, even when you're capable of doing that skill in the abstract, and you might in a different place. And then sometimes some situations that are more business oriented, it's just not appropriate to have social chat, and it might be uncomfortable to engage with somebody that you otherwise would want to have a social conversation. I mean, we're good at switching roles, but we're not great. You know, we sometimes find it funny. I mean, I could, as an example, when I was a grad student, you know, I was going to conferences like this, and you know, reading papers of famous professors and so on, and then you see them at a social event and they're dancing, and that's very shocking, you know, when the first time you see it. These are real people, or if you're, you know,
uncanny.
Yeah, a little bit uncanny, yeah. So you're used to kind of thinking about different kinds of interactions that you have with different people, and I think the same would be with bots, that we may want to have some differentiation of skills.
So, so about this, I understand your point, but what do you think is the fundamental limitation of the current neural-based method? This was a kind of a central issue in this slide, but do you have any idea
about
the limitation of the current best performing neural-based systems?
Yeah.
What's missing, do you think?
I really think it's what I said before about the consistency and coherence and ability to grow. That they're very. I haven't seen Mina or haven't experimented with it myself, but like the Dialogue GPT is very good at local coherence. It's not perfect, but it's very good at local coherence and generating something for specific content. But it's still not very consistent. You know, one conversation we tried with our challenge. ESTP challenge, you know, it was talking about it claimed, and you know, it claimed to have a dog, then not have a dog, and then have a dog again, and you know,
okay.
So those things are very difficult, I think, for the neural models to do very good job of. You know, where are you from consistently? What's your name? You know, there's just so much data that's inconsistent, and we don't have it segregated in the right way yet.
So it is, if we have I don't know, but if we have enough such data, then that can be fixed in some way or the other.
Yeah, but we need some method of either tagging or automatically recognizing not data itself at the word level, but at the conceptual level, and then repackaging that in a way that's consistent with an identity model. I mean, we need another component. Maybe it's another network that's connected to a database somehow, but there's something that's missing currently from the systems that's not quite. We have a little bit of personalization that's, you know, is stratifying the database to some degree, but it's not all the way there yet in terms of coherent longer conversations.
Okay, so we have about 5 minutes to go, so we have to kind of wrap up. But so we have been talking mostly about these issues on this slide, some limitation of the neural-based methods, I don't know if I have heard from all of you, but there are many limitations like personality or consistency. And also we have talked about the application chatbots. So it's good for industry, and also it's good for the sort of a human connection kind of feeling. And yeah, so how do we have any thing that we should talk about in the next few minutes? We have this discussion topics, first of all, and we really haven't talked much about the best practice of chatbots, but we have just covered a little bit here. So maybe it's kind of covered by our discussion.
Maybe we should add that people start to experiment with chatbots for healthcare. So, for example, in a struggle to fight the feeling of isolation among the elderly people in care homes, so things like that. So, people can introduce chatbots to care homes so that elderly people can talk to them. And even if the chatbots don't work well, there's still something that the elderly people can talk about. Like, for example, oh, look, this chatbot is so stupid, but they still have something to talk about among themselves. So this can be a solution to the feeling of social isolation in among elderly people who don't really have anybody to talk to. And giving them an opportunity to talk to chatbots is also an encouragement for them to talk to each other as well.
Okay, it's about this kind of social capital thing. All right, that's a good point. So any other things that we have missed? I don't know the time schedule, but there'll be a next session in a few minutes. Is that right? I'm not aware of the timetable of SIGDIO this year. It's totally difficult to track everything. But
yeah, I'm constantly going back and forth from the schedule to the Trello, and all over the place.
Well, I think it was a very good opportunity to talk about the current status of chatbots, like how you feel about the current neural-based methods, and you was kind of thinking that they are not good enough. So I think that's a nice thing for me probably to work on, because we haven't have such a large data or GPUs to train the models, and there are lots of things to do still. So I think that's a good, it's kind of good news for people outside the big companies. So are there any last things that you want to mention? We have like a minute to go. So anything
Is there any discussion of low resource?
Well, we just at the beginning we just decided on talking about these two issues because we have a limited time. But even in Japanese, we have a limited data for training neural-based chatbots. So I just thought it'd be interesting to talk about this. But you have a lot of data in English, so that may not be a problem for you. But for other languages, that
well, but like I have a student doing, I have a student doing a Native American language, so very, very small resources there. And I don't know, have people tried, I know that it sort of works with machine translation to, be able to have a new output using data from other languages. But has anybody tried that with dialogue to, have a front end with a new language based on training data in another language?
I don't know. The multilingual pre-trained models might work for this purpose, but I haven't tried.
Actually, I would also like to join about this discussion on this low resource system. And I'm from Sri Lanka, and my research, the university I'm working with is interested in these low resource languages. In fact, even my research is related to low resource research setting. Could you share anything specific that has been done for low resource related work with Japanese?
Not really. So, yeah, I just I'm having trouble myself, so I just listed this issue. So if you have, I just thought you might have any other ideas.
I have been working with this meta learning and looking into the transfer learning approaches, and the performance has been still there are a lot of things to be done, and there are a lot of things to be improved, as what I understand. And I would like to, if someone can share their experience with that aspect as well, especially related to the low resource languages.
Okay. Yeah. So if you have some knowledge about dealing with low resource language, that'd be very helpful, I guess. So, so somebody can, if anybody knows anything, you can just add the information on the slide so that people can share that information. Okay, so it's about 5 o'clock now in Japan in the morning. So, and I think it's about an hour since we started. So I think it's a good time to stop. I think it's time limit, right? So the trailer says 45 to 1 hour. So I just keeping that regulation. But if it is okay to close, then I think we're gonna close.
Yeah, thank you.
So it was a really nice talking to you, and we had a very productive, interesting discussion today. So it's nice meeting you, talking to you.
Thank you very much, Ryu and Michael. And we'll see you later.
Okay,
see you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Nice
Bye.
meeting you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.